Someone you trusted looked you in the eyes and lied, or maybe you were the one who did the looking. Either way, you clicked on this video because betrayal lives somewhere in your story. And the question that keeps circling your mind is not really about what happened. It is about why. Why would anyone risk everything they have built for something that lasts only a moment? Why would someone tear apart the very thing they claim to love? Here is what most people get wrong about cheating. They think it is about the other person, the one waiting in secret messages, the one who offers something new. But that is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more uncomfortable. Cheating is almost never about what someone else can give you. It is about what you believe you have, lost in yourself. Let that sink in for a moment. Most people spend their whole lives avoiding this truth. It is easier to point fingers, to blame the home wrecker, to curse the cheating spouse, to draw clean lines between villains and victims. But human beings are rarely that simple. The person who betrays is often running from something they cannot name, a feeling of emptiness that has been growing for years, a sense that somewhere along the way they lost touch with who they really are. This does not make the pain any less real for the person who gets hurt. Betrayal cuts deep precisely because it comes from someone we trusted, someone we let inside our walls, someone who knew exactly where we were most vulnerable. When we talk about betrayal in relationships, we are really talking about a kind of breaking. Not just the breaking of promises or trust. We are talking about something cracking inside the person who chooses to cross that line. And if you want to understand why people cheat, you have to be willing to look at the parts of human nature that most of us would rather ignore. Think about the last time you felt truly seen by someone. Not just noticed, but understood. There is a warmth in that feeling, a sense that you exist in someone else's world as clearly as you exist in your own. Now imagine that feeling slowly fading, day by day, week by week, until one morning you wake up next to someone who knows your face but seems to have forgotten your soul. This is where the fracture begins, not with a stranger in a bar, not with a flirty message that goes too far. It begins in the silence between two people who once spoke without words. It begins in the moments when one person reaches out and the other does not notice. It begins when goodnight stops meaning I love you and starts meaning I am tired of trying. The slow death of a relationship is not dramatic. There are no slamming doors or screaming matches. There is just a quiet withdrawal, a gradual pulling away that happens so slowly neither person realizes it until the distance between them feels impossible to cross. The human mind is built for connection. We are wired to seek out bonds with others because for most of our history, survival depended on it. Being part of a group meant safety. Being alone meant danger. And even though we no longer live in caves or hunt for our food, that ancient programming still runs in the background of everything we do. When someone feels disconnected from their partner, something primal starts to stir. It is not a choice in the way we normally think of choices. It is more like a hunger, a deep, almost physical need to feel connected again. And when that need goes unmet for long enough, the mind starts looking for other ways to satisfy it. This does not excuse the behavior. Nothing excuses lying to someone who trusts you. But understanding why it happens is different from excusing it. Understanding is how we learn. Understanding is how we protect ourselves and build something better. And understanding is how we might finally stop repeating the same painful patterns that have haunted human relationships since the beginning of time. There is a part of the brain that scientists call the default mode network. It is the system that activates when you are not focused on the outside world. When you are daydreaming, when you are lost in thought, when you are replaying old memories or imagining future ones. This network is always running in the background, quietly shaping how you see yourself and your place in the world. For someone who feels unseen in their relationship, this network can become a kind of trap. It loops the same thoughts over and over. What if things were different? What if I had made other choices? What if there is someone out there who would really understand me? These thoughts are not plans. They are not intentions. They are just the mind trying to solve a problem it does not know how to name. The person caught in this loop does not set out to hurt anyone. They are simply trying to escape a feeling they cannot bear, the feeling of being invisible in their own life, the feeling of going through the motions without ever being truly present, the feeling that the best version of themselves exists somewhere else, with someone else, in a life they have not yet found. But here is where things get complicated. The more someone entertains these thoughts, the more real they start to feel. The imagined connection with someone else begins to take up space in the mind. It starts to feel like a possibility, and once something feels possible, it becomes much easier to act on. This is the psychology of the slippery slope. No one wakes up one day and decides to destroy their relationship. It happens in small steps. A conversation that lasts a little too long, a glance that holds a little too much, a secret that seems harmless at first. Each step moves the line just a little further. And before long, the person standing at the edge cannot even remember where the line used to be. They tell themselves it is innocent, just friendship, just someone who understands, just a small escape from the heaviness of home. But each justification makes the next step easier. Each small betrayal opens the door to a larger one. And by the time they realize how far they have gone, turning back feels impossible. Now consider this. What kind of person is most likely to find themselves on this path? You might think it would be someone cold, someone selfish, someone who never really cared about their partner in the first place. But the research tells a different story. People who cheat are often people who feel things deeply. They are sensitive to disconnection. They notice when the energy in a room shifts. They pick up on the small changes in how their partner looks at them. And when they sense that something is wrong, they do not always know how to talk about it. This is where the idea of trait introspection comes in. Some people spend a great deal of time examining their own thoughts and feelings. They turn inward often. They ask themselves big questions about who they are and what they want from life. This kind of deep thinking can be a gift. It can lead to growth and self-awareness, but it can also become a burden. When someone who thinks deeply finds themselves in a relationship that feels hollow, they do not just feel sad. They feel lost, like a piece of themselves has gone missing. And the search for that missing piece can lead them in directions they never expected to go. These are the people who lie awake at night asking questions that have no easy answers. What is the point of all this? Am I living the life I was meant to live? Have I settled for something less than I deserve? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a mind that refuses to accept easy answers. But they can also create a vulnerability that makes connection with the wrong person feel like salvation. Picture someone sitting alone in a room. The house is quiet. Their partner is in another room, scrolling through a phone, paying no attention. And in that silence, the deep thinker starts to wonder, is this really my life? Is this all there is? Did I make a mistake somewhere along the way? These questions are not dangerous on their own, but when they go unanswered for too long, they start to feel unbearable. Now imagine that same person meeting someone new. It could be at work, at a coffee shop, through a friend of a friend. And in that meeting, something sparks. Not just attraction, though that might be part of it. What really sparks is recognition. The feeling that this new person sees them in a way their partner no longer does. This is the moment that changes everything. Not because anything physical has happened yet, but because the mind has found what it was looking for. A mirror, a reflection of the self that feels real again. And once that mirror is found, it becomes very hard to look away. The pull of this recognition is almost magnetic. It feels like coming home after years of wandering. It feels like finally being understood after a lifetime of being misread. And in the grip of that feeling, all the reasons to stay loyal seem to fade into the background. The marriage, the promises, the years of shared history. None of it feels as real as this new connection that seems to see straight into your soul. Here is something important to understand. The person in this moment is not thinking about the consequences. They are not weighing the pros and cons. They are not making a rational decision at all. They are simply feeling something they have not felt in a long time. And that feeling is powerful enough to override almost everything else. This is what makes betrayal so confusing for everyone involved. The person who cheats often cannot explain why they did it. They know it was wrong. They know it hurt someone they love. But they cannot point to a clear reason, because the reason was never clear to begin with. It was a feeling, a need, a longing that had no words. And for the person who was betrayed, this makes everything worse. They want an explanation. They want to know what was missing, what they did wrong, why they were not enough. But the truth is that sometimes there is no good answer. Sometimes the betrayal had nothing to do with them at all. And that might be the hardest truth to accept. The betrayed partner is left holding a shattered picture of their life. Every memory becomes suspect. Every moment of intimacy feels tainted. They find themselves scrolling through old photos, trying to find the exact moment when things started to break. Was it that vacation when he seemed distant? Was it those late nights at work that lasted longer than they should have? Was it the way she started guarding her phone like it contained state secrets? The mind becomes a detective, searching for clues that were missed. And every clue that surfaces only deepens the wound. Let me share a pattern that shows up again and again in these situations. Consider a couple who has been together for years. They built a life. They share a home, maybe children, definitely memories. On the outside, everything looks fine. But on the inside, one of them has been quietly drowning. This person does not feel seen anymore. They do not feel valued. They have tried to bring it up, but the conversations go nowhere. So they stop trying. And in that stopping, something hardens inside them. A wall goes up, and behind that wall, they start to live a separate life. This separate life does not have to involve another person at first. It might just be thoughts, fantasies, a sense that the real version of themselves exists somewhere else. But over time, that separate life starts to feel more real than the one they are actually living. And when someone comes along who seems to match that inner world, the wall crumbles. What happens next depends on the person. Some people pull back at the last moment. They feel the danger and they retreat. They might never act on the feelings, but they carry the guilt of almost doing so. Others cross the line and then spend years trying to undo the damage. And some cross the line and never look back, telling themselves stories to justify what they have done. The stories people tell themselves are fascinating. The human mind is incredibly skilled at creating narratives that protect the ego. A person who cheats might tell themselves that their partner drove them to it, that they had no choice, that it was fate or destiny. that the connection with the new person was too powerful to resist. These stories are not lies exactly. They are more like armor, ways of protecting the self from the full weight of what it has done. But the armor never really works. Beneath it, the guilt keeps growing. And the longer someone carries that guilt, the heavier it becomes. It starts to affect sleep. It creates a constant low level of anxiety that never quite goes away. It makes genuine intimacy feel impossible because real closeness requires honesty. And honesty is the one thing they cannot offer. Some people try to confess. They hope that bringing the secret into the light will free them from its weight. Others bury it deeper, thinking that what their partner does not know cannot hurt them. But secrets have a way of leaking out. They show up in small behaviors, in the way someone avoids eye contact, in the way they pull away from touch, in the way they get defensive over nothing, in the way they suddenly become critical of everything their partner does, as if finding fault could somehow justify what they have done. The person who was betrayed often senses something is wrong long before they have proof. They feel the distance. They notice the changes. And even when they are told that everything is fine, something inside them knows better. This is the slow torture of being lied to. Not just the moment of discovery, but all the moments before it. The feeling of going crazy because your instincts are telling you one thing and your partner is telling you another. When the truth finally comes out, it lands like an earthquake. Everything that felt solid suddenly shifts. Memories get rewritten. Moments that seemed happy now feel suspicious. The betrayed person starts to question not just their partner, but themselves. How did I miss the signs? Why did I ignore my gut? Am I the fool in this story? The world that once felt safe now feels dangerous. If this person could lie to me for so long, then who else is lying? What else in my life is not what it seems? The betrayal does not just end the relationship as it was. It shakes the very foundation of how someone sees reality. These questions can consume someone for months or even years. The pain of betrayal is not just about the act itself. It is about the loss of certainty, the feeling that you can no longer trust your own judgment. If you were wrong about this, what else might you be wrong about? And here is where the psychology gets even more complex. The person who cheated is often going through their own kind of crisis. Not the same as the betrayed partner, but painful in its own way. They have to face who they really are, not the person they thought they were or the person they wanted to be, but the person who made a choice that hurt someone they love. For many, this is the first time they have truly seen themselves clearly. All the stories they told themselves start to crumble. The idea that they are a good person, the belief that they would never do something like this, the image they had built over years of being trustworthy and honorable, all of it revealed to be more fragile than they ever imagined. This confrontation with the self can go one of two ways. Some people use it as a turning point. They dig into the reasons behind their actions. They seek to understand themselves at a deeper level. They do the hard work of changing not just their behavior, but the patterns of thinking that led to it. This is the path of real growth. It is difficult and it takes time, but it is possible. Others avoid this confrontation entirely. They blame their partner. They minimize what they did. They convince themselves that it was a one-time mistake that says nothing about who they are. These people are likely to repeat the pattern because they have not addressed what caused it in the first place. So what does all of this mean for you? Whether you have been cheated on, or you are the one who did the cheating, or you are simply trying to understand human nature a little better, there is something important to take away from this. Betrayal is not random. It does not come out of nowhere. It grows from disconnection, from unmet needs that are never spoken, from feelings that are pushed down until they find another way out. And while none of this excuses the choice to cheat, understanding it can help prevent it from happening in the first place. The antidote to betrayal is not just loyalty. It is attention. It is presence. It is the willingness to keep seeing your partner, even when life gets busy and routines get dull. It is the courage to speak up when something feels off, instead of letting it fester in silence. It is the honesty to say, I feel disconnected from you, and I want to find our way back. These conversations are not easy. They require vulnerability. They require admitting that something is wrong when it would be so much simpler to pretend everything is fine. But they are the only way to keep the fractures from spreading. They are the only way to build something that can actually last. The couples who make it through decades together are not the ones who never have problems. They are the ones who face their problems head on, who say the uncomfortable thing before it festers, who choose honesty even when it hurts, who understand that real intimacy is not about always feeling good. It is about being fully known and choosing to stay anyway. For those who have already experienced betrayal, whether as the one who caused it or the one who suffered from it, there is still a path forward. It starts with looking at yourself clearly, not with judgment or shame, but with curiosity. What patterns led to this moment? What needs went unmet? What stories have you been telling yourself? This kind of self-examination is called metacognition. It is the ability to think about your own thinking, to step back from your emotions and observe them, to notice when you are falling into old patterns and choose a different response. It is not easy. It takes practice, but it is the key to breaking cycles that would otherwise repeat forever. The truth about cheating is that it reveals something about what we all need as human beings. We need to feel seen. We need to feel valued. We need to know that we matter to someone. And when those needs are not met within our relationships, we become vulnerable to seeking them elsewhere. This is not a weakness. It is simply how we are built. The question is not whether we have these needs. The question is what we do with them. Do we hide them until they explode in destructive ways? Or do we bring them into the light where they can be addressed? Do we wait until the damage is done? Or do we speak up when the first cracks appear? Every relationship has moments of disconnection. Every long-term partnership goes through seasons where the spark dims. This is normal. This is not failure. What matters is whether both people are willing to notice the dimming and work together to rekindle what was lost. The people who build lasting relationships are not the ones who never feel tempted. They are the ones who know how to talk about what they need. They are the ones who stay curious about their partners even after years together. They are the ones who understand that love is not a destination, but a practice. Something you do every day, not something you achieve once and forget about. They know that attraction to others does not disappear just because you made a promise, but they also know the difference between a passing feeling and a choice. They feel the pull, and they turn back toward their partner instead of away. They use the moment of temptation as a reminder to invest in what they already have. If this video has stirred something in you, sit with it for a moment. Think about your own relationships. Think about the connections that matter most to you. Are there fractures you have been ignoring? Are there conversations you have been avoiding? Are there needs you have been too afraid to name? The psychology of cheating teaches us that betrayal rarely comes from malice. It comes from pain that has no other outlet. And the best way to prevent it is to create space for honesty before the silence becomes unbearable, before the distance grows too wide to cross, before the fractures become impossible to repair. Thank you for staying with me through this. These are not easy ideas to sit with, but I believe that understanding ourselves, even the uncomfortable parts, is how we grow. If this resonated with you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. I am always curious to hear how these ideas land for different people. And if you found value here, consider subscribing so we can keep exploring the deeper layers of what it means to be human. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there and the people you love.